Um, Thank you all. I think, like everyone, I've spent a lot of time reflecting on 2024. And I'm still equal parts filled with an enormous amount of pride in how far we've come and what we've achieved. And that's equally matched by the disappointment and the opportunity lost right at the end. And in helping me to reconcile, I've been doing a bit of reading, and I'm actually going to start with something from computer programming. Not sure there's too many people in the room that would be too aware of computer programming. But there's a phrase, I've spoken to the players about this. Tom Cargill, he said that the first 90% of the code that you write, it accounts for 90% of the development. And that last 10%, that takes the other 90% of development. And it doesn't make sense. Two lots of 90%. I can see Bruce down here laughing at me, thinking my math doesn't fit. But when I was reading about it, it screamed exactly the position that the Hawthorn Football Club is in. There's this, I think temptation is the right word. There's this temptation for us as a club to think that the work is done. And getting from 16th to 6th, it feels like it's taken 90% of our effort. But I can assure you that getting from 6th to 1st will take another 90% of effort. So I'll start with the 90% of work that's done and what went into that. In my 3 years in this position, I don't think anyone would have foreseen and everyone keeps talking about the 0 and 5, and a big part of the pre-season, we talked so much about what our goals would be. We went back to our strategy for the 1,000th time and talked about what we were trying to achieve for this year, and a lot of it was around becoming a team that was in winnable positions. And everyone's talked about 0 and 5 a lot. But we were also 1 and 6, and 3 of those losses had been by over 50 points. And I looked around our players and I thought about how close we were despite the evidence. And when I reflect on the year, there was one thing that helped us, I think, more than any other club. In fact, I'm certain it's more than any other club, probably not just in our sport, but as a sporting fan like most of us, I would say that this helped us more than any other club. And that was actually, and I'm not usually as corny as this, but I would say the thing that helped us more than any other club was you guys. Because so much was made of the players and their celebrations when they were, when I was awkwardly on camera before, my phone was buzzing in my pocket flat out, and I've got players texting me saying, what celebration are you got to give? You've got to give a celly, you've got to give a celly. And a lot has been made of this celebration that we've had. I'm not going to do it, don't even think about it. But so much has been made of this joy and enthusiasm and energy that has been created from our playing group. But so much of it is actually motivated by what you guys have produced. And so every time there's a goal kicked, and the celebrations when we're winning and when the game's close, they're obvious. But the ones that I've loved the most is the ones that they've shared with you guys when perhaps the game wasn't going on our terms, because it showed that there was a love of the game and a love of their work that they were able to share with you guys, the fans. And when I look around this room with 1,500 people, I think there are a lot of people who really appreciate the work that our players have done. And as members and fans, people that have come along tonight and people who are streaming at home, I know that to give up your time and to be here, you've been on our journey. And that part of our journey, the fans that we've had who have travelled with us, who have been everywhere we've been, they've given us an edge. So thank you. The next part of our journey so far that I think about is, if I reflect back to the start of the pre-season, there was this feeling there was this feeling in the group that we were so close, and we all wanted this big step forward, and we saw through training, through the way we went about it, through our pre-season, that we were so close to what we would view as this giant leap forward. And we didn't know how far that would go or where it would take us, but we knew it was there. And for the past 3 years, there's been an enormous amount of analysis and opinion about how we've gone about things. And when you're a young male, most of our group in their early 20s, to be able to shut out outside noise is much easier said than done. And I think when you think about those people, when you think about what environment do you need to create around young 20-year-olds? I can see Gunners and Luke Bruce, a couple of 30-year-olds as well. What's the environment you need to create around these people? And the key part of it is around consistency. And I know that it's Ash's birthday, which Andy mentioned, but I go into our administration team and I go into our fan base, our supporter groups, our sponsors, the amount of consistency across what we're doing and the amount of buy-in from fans, administration, board, the amount of consistency about the journey. I haven't had anyone saying, oh, we should play finals this year. Oh, we're ahead of schedule, we're behind schedule. There's been a level of consistency towards process which creates an environment for our players to thrive. And it's quite hard to do. Can you imagine trying to sell memberships and trying to sell sponsorships, and it'd be hard not to promise the world. But what they promise is the part of the journey. And I think the level of discipline and consistency that as a whole club, Ash and his team, Andy and his team, along with Rob and his team, I think the fact that we've been able to create such a consistent environment has given our players every reason and every ability to express themselves in a way that I think there's a lot of fan bases who wouldn't have embraced it. And the fact that there's been such consistency across every level of our administration, our board and our football department has given our players a chance to thrive enormously. So to all of those people, I want to thank you as well. Cheers. The other aspect which goes into supporting our players to make sure that they can thrive and be their absolute best is a bit more off the field. And you know, we had a bit of a catch up beforehand, and it's, you know, the girlfriends, fiancés, wives, it's the parents, it's the siblings. For anyone who is a sibling of an AFL player, your life is like shelved a bit. Like you have to eat pasta like once a week, every week for like your whole life. Your parents are a taxi to drive you around everywhere. And I think that the amount of support our players get and the family environment we've had, for those of you who have been lucky enough to come into the change rooms after the game, we've basically restricted them to family only, and they're still full. So to all the families who support our players and support our staff, I think you guys have been awesome. And in particular, this is I'm really grateful to be part of such a fantastic club, but if I think about the support that goes into my own journey, and I know that's replicated with our other coaches, I think to Lyndall and my children, the fact that they become part of, and it's funny, we keep seeing these media stories saying Lyndall's part of our recruiting team, which gives us a chuckle, but as a football club, you need a point of difference. And ours has always been, certainly in name and now, no doubt in my mind, in action, has been the family club. And so Lyndall being a part of recruiting is not actually true. But what Lyndall is a part of the club. And it's not because she's my wife. It's every wife. It's every partner. We're all part of a family environment. And as a coach, what we have tried to create, what I've tried to help create in this club, we all loved footy growing up. We loved our local clubs. We loved being a part of a place where even if we weren't playing, we wanted to be there. You had an injury, you turned up and you loved being part of it. And I think what we've been able to do is when you come to Hawthorn Football Club now, you can hand on heart say we are the family club, and that's something I'm enormously proud of. If I get a little bit more into the footy side of things from this year, I'm actually really looking forward to tonight, and I'm glad the players, well done Nat for what you mentioned before, I'm really glad the players get to enjoy tonight. It is your night, and I want you all to enjoy yourself and to reflect. As an AFL athlete, you don't get too much time to reflect. You're always looking forward, and as soon as tonight's finished, you'll get your speech and you'll have your champagne and you'll be thinking about next year, and if you're not, it'll be me or someone else telling you to. And so that is the nature of it. So I hope that you get to enjoy tonight, and we'll see a lot of these tonight on the screens, I'm sure. But I want you to think back now to some of the moments that made 2024, because I think it's a year we'll remember. And if you go back, the obvious ones are going back to the Gold Coast game with unacceptable performance. But the willingness to stand up and say that was an unacceptable performance. Dylan Moore saying in a press conference, bring your mouth guards. If you think back to Sis's shoulder popping out, but he comes back on and wins us the game. Think about I hope I didn't look that awkward on the camera. Was it that bad? I think about the escalating celebrations, and they built and built and built. The forwards are flat because the best two celebrations of the year were Weds' salute and Jars. What's that called? Yep. So they're the best two celebrations. Think back to Dimmer being swung forward, but only at Adelaide Oval. Guinea versus Collingwood. It's pretty good. I think another memory for mine was when Newt got his haircut. Air Marbs, Kelsh's first game and first goal. They're great moments. There was the first heartbreaking loss to Port Adelaide. There were some tight wins, some close games from teams that we hadn't beaten. There was Punky coming on, kicking the sealer, bringing the baby out. And there was a whole stand of Wizards hats. And so some of those moments are fantastic and some you would like again. But every one of those moments matter in who we're becoming. And the thing I know, and I can say to you with absolute honesty, is that this is a special group of lads. They're cheeky and they're fun, and that's what the world will see, but they work hard, really hard. And the thing that matters the most, if you're in my position, if you could choose any attribute, and this group has it, and that is they want to be great. Sitting in, I know you've seen some of these, but post game we go into the meeting room, and I know that our social media team have shown you some of this vision, but it's an emotional and really raw experience. So whether you've won or lost, whether there's been an injury or everyone's happy and healthy, there's this raw emotion about that, and I know that we've let some of that out for you to see, because we do want to be a club that take you on the journey with us. But post the Port Adelaide final, it was a really interesting, I don't know, I don't want to go back there at all. And I have struggled to move completely past it, as you might be able to tell. But there was this sense of togetherness about it, where you were so in pain and so alone, but you're surrounded. And normally that vision, we have access to whether we let it out or not. But that photo there, I was standing at the front and I knew the meeting was over, and there was this 20 plus players looking at me and 20 staff looking at me, and you could just sense that there was this feeling of that we needed to be together and that we needed some physical contact, some connection, some feeling that we were still in this together regardless of the pain that we were feeling. And the pain that we were feeling was the same as each other's. And to me, that photo, which it was so organic and so powerful that it gives me such an enormous amount of faith in the direction that we're going. So if that's the first 90%, which got us from 16th to 6th, there's another 90% of work to go. And the players know this, but going from 6 to 1 is going to be a bigger, steeper part of our journey. And it's as exciting a mountain as you could possibly have right in front of us right now. And on what I've said tonight, you think about the pillars that are in place. Think about a fan base that could not be more behind every single thing that we do. You have a football club itself, which is fully committed to everything that drives us. You have families that sell out half of this room, probably. And you think about the next step in our journey. Got no doubt there will be ups and downs. But I think for the first time in my time as the coach, every one of the staff, every one of the players, we watched the grand final this year. And we know we've got work to do in front of us, and we know that the only thing left for us to do to get to that step is the work. And if life teaches us anything, it's that work works. But we all watched that final, and for the first time, we all said to ourselves, the amount of texts I got saying we would not at all look out of place out there. So, while tonight is a celebration of 2024, and we deserve to do that. It was a good year. It was a really good year, an enjoyable year. I think most of us had fun for most of it. And I want to thank every one of you in this room and all those at home for being part of it. But we're just getting started.